Hey guys, so today we're talking about how to shoot a cinematic interview on any budget at any location. For this interview, I was able to use the Alexa Mini plus the Fujinon 19 to 90mm lens, which was fantastic. And also I had a dolly for the push-ins and the push-outs. Because of the budget being slightly lower, we were only able to rent one Alexa Mini, but I had a solid crew of a first AC, a gaffer, and a grip that kind of helped bring this whole interview together. For the lights, we used an Aperture 600D, 300D, and a Nova. These lights were used to light the subject and also used to light the space. Anyways, I'm gonna share 9 steps with you guys on how to shoot a cinematic interview and also how to light a cinematic interview, so let's dive straight in. Step 1, alright, you need to scout the location. When you arrive at the location, you gotta think, how can you incorporate depth into your frame? When we were looking at locations, we had a few other locations in mind, but landed on this one because of having more flexibility to lay a dolly track. But when you're looking for a location, you need to find a space that's appropriate for the type of interview that you're shooting. You know, in this case, we were doing an interview that was related to the construction topic, and it was also kind of like an e-learning course as well. So we had to find somewhere that was a little bit more industrial. We had this spot where, you know, we had a garage door and then we had a corner that felt like it had these like construction tables in the background, and it was kind of appropriate for the type of topic we were covering. Also, when you're looking for a location, you know, you got to ask yourself, can we find some leading lines when you're looking at your frame? Can we find some windows? Are we able to shoot towards the corner of the room? You know, that way you could possibly like maximize the amount of depth you have in your shot. And when it comes to interviews, I see a lot of people just putting their subject right up against the wall or putting him on a chair or a couch that's right up against the wall. And I would encourage you guys to just remove that person as far away as you can from the wall. Therefore, you can give them as much depth in your shot. All right, step number 2 is camera placement. You know, when you're looking for that angle and looking for the right place to shoot, it helps to have a second person with you that kind of can sit in and you can kind of test multiple angles. Also, make sure to pay attention to your eye level, you know, when you're setting the camera height. Try to avoid shooting up someone's chin because it's not as flattering when you shoot at that angle. You know, naturally when we're looking at people or talking to them, we're kind of looking at them at eye level instead of like looking up at their chin. So they look most attractive when you're just having the camera just like maybe an inch or two higher than their eye level too. Also, in regards to headspace, you know, there should be enough space above their head for a small black bar to go over them. Another way to think about it is you want to place, you know, maybe 4 fingers above their headspace, and that way you just have a good general area. If you need to push in a little bit more, you have that flexibility. Most interviews, you know, call for an A camera that is kind of capturing from the waist up, and then the B camera getting either a medium close-up shot or a tighter shot, you know, kind of shoulders up. In this situation, since we only had one camera and we're shooting in 4K Ultra HD, I kind of shot from the knees up, so the editor has that flexibility to go punch in and do a medium or a medium close-up shot in post if they had to. All right, step number 3 is your key light, which is the first light that you set up when you're doing an interview. You want to have that at a 45-degree angle, and you want to make that as nice and soft as possible, just because that's going to be the main light coming in, and you want that to be flattering on their face. You want a little bit hitting, you know, mainly on one side, and then a little bit going on their left cheek or whichever side you're shooting from. The way I approached my key light was using the book light method, which means that you're hitting a pretty strong light against a white floppy and then having that bounce go through another layer of diffusion. 4th step is to have a really solid backlight. You know, a backlight helps separate your subject from the background. What it also does is that it makes your 2D image feel a little bit more 3-dimensional. You know, for the backlight, in this situation, we used a 300D with a mini dome plus a CTO gel, an orange gel, to help separate the subject from the background and also give a little bit of a contrast between the daylight that was coming from the key light and just kind of have a CTO gel that was matching also the LED bulbs in the background. So it kind of felt consecutive and consistent with the lighting in the room. All right, step number 5 is your background light. You want to get some spread and color to add more interest to your frame. If the background is dark, then it kind of takes away a little bit of the cinematic feel to the interview style that you're going for. Most movies or shows that you watch, nothing is completely dark. Everything is somewhat lit in the room, and if you're trying to bring that look to your interviews, then maybe have some background lighting happening. So my background light that was kind of hitting the wall was actually matching those practical lights, which is coming up on step number 6. Your practical light is basically a motivation for the lights that you're using for the background light. So those lamps that you see in the background, there's 2 of them, but only one of them could actually come down far enough, are matching the color of the Nova. Totally natural to have lamps in your frames. Not every household lamp is like the best option to have in your interviews, but it's gotta fit in the style of the interview that you're going for and match the type of location you're shooting in. All right, the 7th step that you need to take is to either bring in more props or have set decoration, or remove any unwanted props or furniture items. You want to remove clutter and spread out stuff in the background. You don't want to have your frame be too busy and be distracting. And then the 8th step is to have a second camera. I know we didn't have a second camera for this situation, but I have a second camera for, I would say, 95% of the interviews that I do. The reason you need a second camera is that you want to have the ability to cut through interviews, while you edit. Unless the talent on camera is an amazing host or is a super experienced speaker, they're not going to give you exactly what you need every time you ask them a question. If you do choose to have a second camera, make sure that the settings are matching. Don't try matching a Sony with a Canon or a Nikon with a Lumix. All those cameras just have different color sciences, and sometimes from my experience, I would say, color grading in post has been a nightmare. The 9th step is audio. I know we had an audio person on this set, which was nice, but most times I end up setting up my audio. So I have some tips to give you guys. When it comes to the best boom mic placement, I would say you want to have the mic pointing at their chest, but also in terms of height, be from thumb to pinky lengths away from their head. And then the best audio setup usually is to have a lav mic on the person and also boom over them, just so you have 2 options to mix together in post. One last tip that I would give you guys when it comes to interviewing the subject is to remind them to restate the question. It makes it a lot easier to cut the interview in post, and it makes it less confusing when people are watching the final product. I hope you guys found these 9 steps super helpful. These are the same 9 steps I take with every interview shoot that I approach, and I hope that they are helpful to you. If there's some steps that I missed that are crucial to this process, please comment them down below, like and subscribe, and I appreciate your support, and I'll see you guys on the next one.